Wes Goldberg, cold open question for you, real quick, before we get into a slew of NBA free agency news. So the WNBA announced the next three cities: Cleveland 2028, Detroit 2029, Philly 2030. So I put down $28 a ticket deposit on Rockers, some future Rocker season ticket plan. So my question for you is this: what is the furthest advance you've ever bought a ticket for something? Because I think this is my answer. Because it's like 3 years. It's literally 3 years away, and I
Oh, this is good.
I paid money for a ticket.
Yeah, this blows my record away. My answer is Taylor Swift. I think we bought the Taylor Swift tickets 6 to 8 months, and whenever they were on sale, the first part of it before Ticketmaster got involved, whatever. Not even close. Not even close to what you're dealing with here.
3 years is a long time to wait to get.
Congrats, by the way, though. That's awesome that you guys get the team. I was a little disappointed. I didn't expect Miami to get it. It just didn't feel like we were getting much momentum here, but I'm jealous, man. I'm jealous.
Follow-up question: as a non-Cleveland person, are you good with the Rockers as a name, considering it seems like what they're going to stick with?
No.
Yeah, it's.
I don't get what it is. It's rocking the basketball.
It's the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. If you go and look at the thing, it's like the guitar. Yeah, it's very dated. I get why you stick with the thing you had before, but I might have just had.
I don't. If it didn't work.
I mean, different.
The team isn't around for a reason.
I mean, it wasn't the name. It was like American sports culture in the 90s and early 2000s, and an owner who wanted.
Sure, but I don't know that the name helped. I don't think I'm curious what the how many women on the WNBA team. I would imagine most of them born in the late 90s, early 2000s give a shit about rock and roll, because that doesn't seem like a thing that Gen Z cares about.
Yeah, not gonna help the recruiting pitches. I think it's actually a great point. Is that being associated with the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, trying to attract often young women of color to come play in your city? It's not particularly helpful.
Right. You might as well just. It's so dated. You might as well call them the Cleveland black and white TVs. It's just they're okay, old people. We'll play under your whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. I maybe they'll do have a meeting. It feels like that. I don't know how much focus grouping there was on this, but I feel like there probably could have been some really detailed focus grouping to maybe come to the conclusion you just did in about a minute.
Yep.
All right, on today's show, a lot of free agency stuff. The NBA was active. We're going to break it down. The things we didn't confused by on today's Just Basketball show. Let's go.
Spectacular move by Michael Jordan. LeBron James with no regard for human life.
What is up, everyone? Chris Manning, Wes Goldberg here on the Just Basketball Show. If you have not already, please subscribe, rate, review on your podcast platform of choice. Hit that notification bell for notifications on YouTube. 5-star ratings and review, please, and thank you. And as always, we're powered by our friends at BetMGM.
If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use the bonus code JustBasketball, and you'll get up to $1,500 in a first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's how it works. Download the BetMGM Sportsbook app on iOS or Android. Sign up using the code JustBasketball. Deposit at least $10. Place your first wager on any game. You'll receive up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if the bet loses. Just make sure to use the bonus code JustBasketball when you sign up. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Must be 21 or older to wager. Terms and conditions apply.
All right, Wes, we got a lot of free agency bits to get to. I'm going to give you first choice here. What's your number one move? What's the number one thing here that you are looking at and thinking I gotta take to get off about this?
Well, we got to talk about the Atlanta Hawks, who I think are the winners of the offseason right now.
Okay.
Let's just talk about what they did over the last 3 hours. We're recording this 9 p.m. Eastern Monday after 6 p.m. start to free agency. They negotiated a sign and trade to get Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and they signed Luke Kennard to a 1-year, $11 million deal. You add that to the fact that they also leased the New Orleans Pelicans on draft night, ended up getting a 2026 pick unprotected for next year, the better of New Orleans and Milwaukee. I love what the Hawks have done. I think that they have chosen a direction. I think this goes back to last year when they traded DeJounte Murray for Dyson Daniels. They picked a direction. They said, you know what? Trae Young, we traded DeJounte Murray. We were just Trae Young's our guy. We're stuck with him for better or for worse. And I think Trae Young had a really nice season last year for Atlanta. But they said he's small, he's bad on defense. Everybody around him needs to be athletic, big, long, good on defense. He needs the ball in his hands. We need guys who don't necessarily always have the ball in his hands all the time. And I love the roster that they've put together. So I don't know if this necessarily is cheating because I'm kind of taking it all in totality over the last basically calendar year. But adding Nickeil Alexander-Walker to a wing group that already includes Dyson Daniels, James Johnson, Zachary Riza-Shea, I just think it makes so much sense for this team. And they moved on from Clinton Capella, who signed with the Houston Rockets. They still have Onyeka Okongwu. I still think that they have other things that they have to deal with. I think they still need to re-sign Larry Nance. I like him for them still.
Yeah.
But they still have a little bit of stuff to do to fill out the roster. But generally, I just think they have a great direction. I think they have a great game plan. The roster makes a ton of sense to me. And to me, in a wide open Eastern Conference, they're a team that really played well down the stretch. If you build in another leap for Riza-Shea and all the things that they've done here, this is a team that could legitimately make the Eastern Conference Finals next year. And I'm calling it now. It's going to be them or Orlando, hipster pick to come out of the Eastern Conference next year.
I mean, this is the time to go for it, right? Like it's a great time to figure out exactly, I think, what Trae is as your franchise guy to some degree. I think that's an added benefit of this, is that like you're giving Trae the most support he's had since they made the Eastern Conference Finals and saying, let's go for it. I think that's great. If you look at the odds, they have the fourth best odds right now at BetMGM to win the East. Plus 600 odds. Cavs are plus 225, Knicks plus 350, Magic plus 450, Orlando plus 800. Or excuse me, Atlanta plus 800. And like obviously I think there are some like concerned with some of the things they did. Like I think the Porzingis thing was a great like business deal considering I don't know how many games Porzingis will play.
Yeah, I forgot to mention him.
But it's like if he plays 50 good games for you in a contract year, you might be able to get something really good out of him for this year.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm not as high as it seems like everybody is with Porzingis. I like, did anybody watch the playoffs last year? And everybody's just assuming that this mysterious illness also had an expiration date of the end of the season. Like I have no idea what's going on with this.
Yeah.
So
but if I wouldn't be in a rush to pay him. Like he's not like if they pay him a year, I'd be a little scared. But it's like 1 year you got assets.
It's a good flyer.
It's a good flyer. He can be a really good rim protector for you for losing Capella. I would rather probably have Porzingis on my roster for 1 year than paying Capella for the next 3.
Definitely, because you get the upside with it. People are just sort of assuming Porzingis, every sort of SportsCenter graphic as like Kristaps Porzingis, who's beating these 5 with the Atlanta Hawks. I'm not sure that Porzingis starts for Atlanta. I kind of still think that they start Okongwu and just bring Porzingis off the bench, just so that you don't have to mix up your starting lineup every other night when Porzingis can and cannot play. So basically what Boston did with Horford and Porzingis, when they kind of figured out that that's what they wanted to do. They also drafted Asa Newell when they traded back. I think that was a little bit of a slide for Newell. I think that's a nice piece for them going forward. Kobe Buffkin is a guy who started to show some things last year. Maybe they can get a little bit more out of him. They still have Mo Gay, who was starting at power forward for them by the time they got into the play-in tournament. He's coming off the bench. Nice little defensive piece for them. I just think they have so many guys. I think they have a ton of guys. The Porzingis thing, I'm with you. Not as high on it as consensus, but for the fact that it's a 1-year rental, essentially, and they can walk away from it scot-free, it makes a ton of sense for me. So I love Atlanta. I think they're huge winners so far of the offseason. They didn't shake it up too much. They just doubled down. They figured out what it is that they do well and what winning Atlanta Hawks basketball looks like last year. They didn't make the playoffs, but I think they clearly identified what works for them, and they doubled down on it this offseason. And I think that's a win. I think it's good strategy. It's good direction. It's a win.
Getting Jalen Johnson back on top of all this is just it's a great summer for them to get healthy Jalen Johnson back, who will be, I think, their second best player. And I just love the Nickeil Alexander-Walker Trae Young fit. Like I love this as like the backcourt made for Trae because you have a really good defender there. It's a good shooter. You can see if you can get more out of him in the system. And I also just like trust the coach that they have to make all of this work, right? Like if they had like a lesser coach, like even like a middle of the road coach, I would be like, okay, are you spending and like what are you getting out of this? They have one of my 5 to 6 favorite coaches in the NBA in Quinn Snyder. And you have Quinn Snyder pulling the strings on this and knowing how to organize all this and maximizing it. I really, really trust the formula here. Like in this, look, there are teams in the West really loading up. We're going to get to them. The East is like much easier for me to justify just saying, let's go for it. Like there is one team or like 2 teams you feel really good about kind of carrying over and everything else is wide open. Why not? Like and it's not like they've done anything here, Wes, that I think was like bad short-sighted business either. Like that's the other, I think the kicker to this. It's like they didn't trade for Porzingis and extend him. They didn't like give Nickeil Alexander-Walker like $100 million. Like they did very reasonable bits of business for a team that is going for it. I think it's great. I think all of this is great.
Yep, good, smart front office thing. Good for them.
Let's go to the Denver Nuggets. Is my next one here because
Huge winners.
The Nuggets nailed day one here.
Yep.
Cam Johnson is a better player than Michael Porter Jr. in a vacuum. 100% to me.
Mm-hmm.
Rather have Cam Johnson.
More reliable two-way player.
More reliable two-way player. Has had will be healthier based on just his overall track record. The 2032 pick, okay, it's like I get you're like trading more picks, but it's like you go for it with Jokic. I think that's worth it. You get Bruce Brown back on a minimum. I'm like penciling in a December like ringer column about like the Bruce Brown revitalization because he's back with Jokic.
Mm-hmm.
Like Jokic knows how to play with that guy. He's going to be really good. And on top of that, I believe they've opened up their mid-level exception with these trades. I think they now have like a little bit more flexibility based on when I was like scanning through on Reddit. Like they got a better player. They got back Bruce Brown. They're deeper now. And I think they have a little more flexibility to go get something else if they want to. That is like amazing bits of business by Denver for a team that is like didn't really do a big splashy hire with their front office, kept the same head coach. They're like betting on reshaping the continuity just enough to move forward. And like a closing 5 next year of Jamal Murray, Christian Brown, Cam Johnson, or Gordon Jokic. That's a really damn good 5 to close out a playoff game in the West next year. I love what they did here on day one.
Yeah. It was the first real big move that kind of set things off. And so they trade Michael Porter. Let's kind of break down the pieces here. So they trade Michael Porter Jr. and that 2032 unprotected pick to Brooklyn for Cam Johnson. I think it's a great piece of business for Brooklyn to get their hands on that 2032 pick because who knows? It's just a nice asset for them. I also think it's really smart by Denver. You've got Jokic. You kind of wasted the last couple of years. Just do it, right? Like, so what? It's at the point now where even if that 2032 pick ends up being the number 1 pick in the draft, nobody's going to fault Denver for this trade.
No.
It was the right move. Because you already nailed it. You got the better player in the trade, and you also salary dumped a player, and it only cost you 1 pick. It usually costs you a pick to salary dump the player, and it costs you a pick to get a good player. I don't think Cam Johnson is overwhelmingly better than Michael Porter Jr. I think Michael Porter Jr. has much higher highs than Cam Johnson.
Yeah.
But you don't need those highs, right? You've got Jokic. You've got Jamal Murray, who's capable of popping off every once in a while. And as good as Michael Porter Jr. was for Denver, I do think they needed somebody that was a little bit more reliable on both ends of the ball. And that's Cam Johnson. Defensively, he's just going to bring it more than Michael Porter Jr. did. He's not as stiff. He could do a little bit more. I think he might be a little bit overrated defensively, but I like him. And I think he's a guy who could play in the playoffs, which would be, if I'm a Denver fan, my only little queasy part of this is I don't remember really seeing this guy in the playoffs since the 2021 finals run. But he was part of that 2021 Phoenix team that made the finals, and so there is some experience there. Anyway,
and it's like he got traded to Brooklyn, which is like we kind of all
for
saw
sure
that coming, you know. It's
yeah,
like we kind of
exactly.
saw what they were doing there.
Exactly. So everybody likes him. I think it's an obviously good trade for them. And then when they did that, they saved $7 million, and that allowed them to go out and get Bruce Brown. And to your point, they could still have a little bit of wiggle room here to do something else. But you're looking now at the top 5 that you mentioned. You've got Bruce Brown coming off the bench. And if you can get one other piece, whoever that might be, they still need a backup center. We've been talking about it for years. They still need it. But they could go out and do it. Like, they could do these things now.
Yeah. Into the, like, even if the West is like this loaded beast, it's like you have Jokic. I think still the best player alive. You might as well just like go for it. You can't, to your point, spend another year not doing it. And if you do think like, hey, we want to compete for a championship next year, you can't look at the Thunder and you can't look at what the Rockets have done and say like we can just run this back. You could not, like, you couldn't do that based on how you lost. And you look at how the Thunder are now positioned, and you look at what the Rockets are doing, and you cannot say we can just be fine. Like, you literally just could not do that and tell your fan base, tell Jokic with a straight face, and say it. Also just like memory hold to me the very weird comments that their ownership made when they were like, we could be one bad season away from Jokic like requesting a trade, which was like one of the weirdest comments I've like heard from an owner, just like unforced in a press conference in like a long time, like a week ago. And maybe this was just because they knew they had to do something and they owed it to Jokic. Maybe that was the message, but it was like such a weird comment that like now I'm just like, oh, okay. Like they're not that risk was already I think lesser with Jokic based on how we understand him, but it's even lesser now, I would say.
The other part I like about this trade for the Nuggets is it replaces the Michael Porter Jr. sort of salary albatross with Cam Johnson, who is very tradable. So for whatever reason, if it doesn't work out, you can now turn Cam Johnson into multiple pieces more likely than not. And I like that as just an opportunity to increase your flexibility if you're Denver, which was sort of their main thing, is that they just didn't have anything. This one trade and the sacrifice of using one of those first-round picks to make it happen, it really unlocked a lot of things. It kind of just shook everything loose in a way that's helpful for the Nuggets.
$17 million less for Cam Johnson is like that's enough for me.
Yeah,
exactly. Even if I have a Nets friend who is like pretty, except for certain parts of Michael Porter Jr. excited about this. It's just like I don't think Michael Porter Jr. Even if you think he's better, I don't think you could argue that he's $17 million better than Cam Johnson.
Mm-mm.
And like in the apron world, that does matter. Like we are in like a world where like you have to think about, I think, some of these deals in that way practically.
Good thing about this with Brooklyn is everybody on the team is a ball handler now, except for Michael Porter Jr. He's going to be just catching passes.
Cam Thomas and Michael Porter Jr. just chucking shots is a great way to get yourself in good position for a top 3 pick next year.
Can I give you my next winner?
Please.
I love what the Clippers did.
Yeah.
By adding Brook Lopez. And at the same time, this is a huge loss for Milwaukee, but I'll get to them in a second. This just made a lot of sense. And they've got Ivica Zubac. The backup center spot was a huge glaring hole for them. It was very similar for what Denver was dealing with. Like, not as extreme, but in terms of the plus minuses, it just felt like the Clippers couldn't survive when Zubac was on the bench. They tried Drew Eubanks. They tried all these guys. By the playoffs, none of these guys were playable. It was back to Ben Simmons at the 5, and that wasn't viable. And Nick Batum kind of moonlighting as a 5 every once in a while. That eventually ran its course. So they needed a backup center. I don't know that they had to take as big of a swing as they did with Brook Lopez, but they got him. 2 years, $18 million, so $9 million average annual value for Brook Lopez for probably the best backup center in the league now.
Yeah,
is tremendous value. I love what the Clippers did. It was one move, but it's a move that I think has cascading effects across the roster now, because now you're able to unlock different kind of units. Is it good? I could see automatically right now you've got James Harden and Ivica Zubac. You know, you've got them kind of stapled together if you're Ty Lue and you're managing your rotations. And then Kawhi Leonard plus Brook Lopez. That makes a ton of sense to me, right? We've seen what Kawhi Leonard does with big, stretchy 5s, whether it's Marc Gasol or Serge Ibaka or whoever it is. Brook Lopez is right there. I think it makes a ton of sense. I love the move for the Clippers. And it was a surprising one because a lot of people thought that Brook Lopez was LA bound, but thought that he was going to the Lakers.
Yeah, it's in which it seems like Ayton's the Lakers center solution, which was like a very weird like bio thing that happened the other day. I think maybe we'll get to that at some point.
Yeah, I want to. I have more thoughts on that.
Okay, but like Kawhi, Harden, Powell, Zubac, Brook, Bogdan, Derek Jones, Batum, Chris Dunn is like a good collection of guys. Again, coached by a really good coach that I think will elevate the talent. If Kawhi's healthy, like I'm going to be talking myself into them as a sleeper next year. 100%.
Yeah, I won't. Because
I know
you
have a rule. It violates your rules. You're excited despite your rule, which tells me how much I think you actually like this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Let's go to Houston.
Yep.
Houston's all gas, no brakes, man. The Rockets are just like, we got Kevin Durant. Let's just throw more gasoline on this. And I love the ambition of it. I question the Clint Capella thing because like you paid Steven Adams to come back and you have Sengun.
Mm-hmm.
The Jabari Smith number made me raise my eyebrows a little bit for what we've seen from him so far. It's like definitely a bet on potential for him for 5 years, 122. But I love that they are just absolutely saying we believe we can win a championship next year. We're going to pay Dorian Finney-Smith. We're going to bring in Capella. We're going to keep Steven Adams. We're going to keep Van Vliet at a lower number, which is a really good bit of business for them. We got KD. Like they are just so aggressively in on this, and they are saying we know we have Kevin Durant, and we need to go for it. The other part of it I like, Wes, is that they haven't done anything that is sacrificing like is going to hold back Amen Thompson, which I think is like the whole cipher to me in this. Like even if they got like more wings and they're paying Jabari Smith and like then paying Amen Thompson in a couple of years will require I think some cap logistics, I would imagine.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't do anything here that is like going to take away from like what makes Amen Thompson special and like hold him back. Anything, I think everything they've done is like accentuating him. And if the higher his ceiling gets hit next year and the better he is next year, the better the Rockets are going to be. Like he is like the thing that will like elevate their ceiling to a whole other level. And they've just like created like a great infrastructure for him on top of getting one of the best scorers of all time to shore up their big offensive issue. Like this team is all in. They're making win now moves when they made a win now trade for Durant. They're backing up some of the stuff without fully sacrificing and still empowering a lot of the young, really interesting talent that they have. I love how aggressive this is. We'll see if it works out. But I love where how they're approaching this so far.
So I do too. This was a team that we kept talking about. They got a lot of guys last season. They got a lot of guys. It feels like they need a consolidation trade. Then they went out and traded for Kevin Durant in what technically amounts to a consolidation trade because they moved Jalen Green and Dylan Brooks. But it didn't feel that consolidating-y. You know what I mean? And then they just added a bunch of guys. They added Clint Capella. I'm like, when is this guy going to play? They already have Alperen Sengun and Steven Adams. They added Dorian Finney-Smith to a wing room that includes Amen Thompson and Tari Eason. They brought back Jayshawn Tate. It feels like this team went from, wow, this team is really deep. They have like 8 or 9 guys, 10 guys who can all play, and I really like. It feels like this is a roster of 20 players, right? This team is so deep. They brought back everybody. They brought back Jeff Green. They brought back Holiday. They brought back all these guys. So I love it. I love that they've decided they saw what the Thunder did. Defense, size, depth. That's what won them the finals. They said, okay, cool. Defense, size, depth. It also turns out that the Thunder have a top 10 scorer in the NBA. They're the best scorer in the NBA. But Houston saw that and said, we also need a guy who can give the rock to on any half-court possession. They went out and got Kevin Durant. Stole Kevin Durant. Basically nothing.
They got the most dependable version of that has existed in the last 20 years of the NBA.
Maybe in the history of the NBA. You can make
like,
a legitimate case.
In my lifetime, the things I've actually watched, like the most sure half-court bucket I've ever seen is Kevin Durant. And they added him. It's great.
I love it. I love it. The Capella deal is fine. 3 years, $21.5 million, $7-ish million a year.
Can I ask you about that? Because like they have 3 centers, and maybe one of them is trade bait for like another similar size contract. I just didn't feel like they needed the Capella thing.
To me, did they need it? No. But it feels like now they're going to. We saw against the Warriors, they really started to lean into the double big lineup of Sengun and Steven Adams. And I think they wanted one other body in there in order to help facilitate that. I think what we're going to see is a lot more double big lineups. It's also a hedge against injuries. It also allows them to perhaps make a trade if they want to down the line. But you need centers. They're at a premium now. Backup centers are hard to come by. You know, ask all these teams that we've been talking about that just always don't have a backup center. So they can always trade one of these guys and if they want to and collect some more assets. But no, I think it means that they're going to be exploring more with these double big lineups. And you also look at the 3 centers they have. It looked like, wow, why do you need these 3 centers? Well, they've got Sengun, who's a little bit more of a finesse center. I don't even know if finesse is the right word, but more skilled, right? Like can pass, can hit jumpers, all these things. He's a good rebounder, all these things. So I don't mean to say finesse was probably the wrong word. You've got Şengün, the more skilled of the group. You've got Steven Adams, who's just a brick wall, burly, rebounding machine, protects the rim, but pretty floor-based. And then you've got Capella, who is not the run and jump athlete that he was, but still a vertical threat, a rim protector. So they kind of have three different kinds of centers on the roster now. So depending on the matchup, Ime Udoka can kind of toggle and play one center more than the other one and kind of figure out what matchup makes more sense. So we'll see what happens. But I love the addition of Dorian Finney-Smith. To me is just mean. That is straight up mean. First of all, you take away the best wing defender from a rival in the Lakers in your conference, and then you add DFS to Amen Thompson and Tari Eason. I mean, if that is not looking at what the Thunder do and just being like, no, we don't have enough good defenders, let's add another one. That's literally what Houston just did. That is copy and paste, word for word, verse and verse, what they wanted to do. And that's what they did. So they're going to have all these wing defenders all the time. And now, is anybody happier than Kevin Durant, who was sort of Phoenix's best defender last year?
And now it's like, hey, man, we're going to stash you on like the shittiest person in the other team. Congratulations. He's chilling. And then if they're like, we want to put, it's like, because he's on the worst offensive player on the other team, he gets put into action. It's like, okay, you're going to attack the 7-foot guy who moves and competes really well, even if he's never like, even if like
he's not what he was with Golden State, but
no, he doesn't have to be, because this is also like they have Amen Thompson and Jabari Smith and like,
God, and I like the Jabari Smith deal for what it's worth. I mean, $22-ish million a year. That's great. That's a good value for Jabari. I'm so high on him.
I have sticker shock now with every single NBA contract. I just have a little bit of sticker shock now. And again, Wes, I will say, this is another example where it's like they are backing the coach in a really smart way. This is like an Ime Udoka-ass team that we're getting here.
He's earned it, though. I mean, what he did the last couple of years, especially last year with Houston, it's like, okay, man, yep, let's go for it. And I think they're clearly the second best team in the Western Conference now. Can I give you another team that I like?
Well, so is your top three? Is your top three OKC, Houston, Denver? Is that your three? Right? Would that be your three right now?
Probably yes. Yeah, you just asked me that. I have given that zero thought.
I haven't either. It occurred because the Clippers, the Lakers, I don't know where they're at yet.
Yeah, they still need to get a center.
We still got to get a center. The Wolves, I think, have some proven energy.
The Wolves. Yeah, I think there's a clear top four with the Wolves in that group.
And then like the Lakers, Clippers, Warriors are all kind of think right behind there would be my guess.
Yeah.
All right. Give me your next one.
All right, I guess we're just gonna do all the ones we like and then kind of get into the stuff we didn't like then.
Or I can shit on someone right now if you want.
No, I think it's nice to start positive.
Okay. Right. I was a little too eager on my part to just start dunking it. There actually hasn't been anything I've overly like. There's little stuff I haven't loved over like in practice.
There's a couple things I really hate.
Okay, I don't know if there's anything I like hate.
That's
we'll
a tease.
Get there. Yeah, we'll get there.
I don't know that I want to spend a lot of time on these two teams. Because I still feel like there's stuff to be done, perhaps. But the Grizzlies and the Magic, I think, have had really, really good off seasons so far. The Grizzlies they did their work. They traded Desmond Bane to Orlando. I love the trade for Memphis. I'm okay with the trade for Orlando. But they got a bunch of picks. They got the guy. They moved up in the draft and got Cedric Howard. They are going to empower Jalen Wells. They still have Vince Williams. They still got a bunch of guys that everybody likes, G.G. Jackson. And they took care of business early on. And it's just, I love when teams just know what they want to do and then take care of it. The Thunder did it last summer. They said, we know we want Isaiah Hartenstein. We know we want to trade Josh Giddey for an impact player who can help on both ends of the basketball. And they did it for Alex Caruso, and they just knocked it out day one. And I love what the Grizzlies did in terms of just handling their business early. They did what they had to do in trading Desmond Bane, got tremendous value out of that piece, cleaned up their salary cap books, signed Jaren Jackson Jr. to the extension today. I had the numbers in front of me, and I don't anymore. Whatever they were. So they signed him to the extension, which was what they wanted to do. They brought back Santi Aldama, who was a restricted free agent, where a lot of teams were circling that, just in case they weren't able to sign Jaren Jackson Jr. and they're going to wonder what was going to happen with Aldama. They bring back Jaren Jackson. They bring back Sandy Aldama. They re-sign Cam Spencer. They are going to find. It sounds like they're going to buy out Cole Anthony or potentially find a trade for him. But
broken by his dad on television, which was like an interesting. His dad was like, "This might happen," and it's like, okay. Cool.
Jaren Jackson Jr. 5 years, $240 million max renegotiation extension. So awesome deal for them. So look, I don't think they need Cole Anthony. Is Scottie Pippen Jr. under contract, or they need to still bring him back? But I like what they did. They just handled their business. They kept their good players. Their books are in order. They added 4 first-round picks. They moved up in the draft and got Cedric Howard. I thought it was a very sensible offseason so far for Memphis.
I agree. I like the Ty Jerome ad for them as a budget version of what Desmond Bain.
Oh my God, that's the other. I love Ty Jerome for them. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, particularly at the number because we'll talk about this a little bit when we get. We'll just lump this in now because I think it kind of relates. The Cavs, I think, are part of the story because the way that I read the reporting around this stuff with Jerome was he seemed to think he was getting the full mid-level. $15 million. Like that's what he was looking for. He signed for 3 for 28. So he didn't get that. He got like $5 million less. He still got a good chunk of change for a guy that was a couple years ago on a 2-way deal with Golden State. It was on like a very cheap like prove it deal with Cleveland, and over like was the best bargain deal in the NBA last year by like a wide margin.
Yeah.
It felt like to me that when the Cavs when Jerome was like, I think I'm getting this from other places, the Cavs did, I think, a pretty sensible thing, which was flip Isaac Okoro straight up for Lonzo Ball, and then you keep Sam Merrill. I don't think if they decided to just keep Ty Jerome, that they were also keeping Sam Merrill. I think they had to kind of like pick a path there, it felt like, to me, just the aprons and stuff. The Grizzlies like winning out in this with the Cavs like move on from Jerome, even though they could have offered him, I think, up to $12 million. And the market for him just not existing where he could get the mid-level is a great bit of business for Memphis. Like, you get him at like a much cheaper price than Bain. It gives you the room to pay Jaren Jackson. You're a good drafting team. Like, you still have more room for Jalen Wells and all these other guys to really thrive. Like that roster, if Ja is rocking next year, like, you can tell yourself a really interesting story about what the Grizzlies could be. We'll see if it exists, but there was like a compelling case that if the coach is right, if all this stuff aligns, like, you could be in for a really, really kind of like upbeat Grizzlies year when it's been 2 years of, I think, pretty disappointing stuff for Memphis.
Yeah, the Ty Jerome things, that was a big part of this. And we have seen what the Grizzlies have done with high-level point guards in the past, whether it was Tyus Jones or even Scottie Pippen Jr. for stretches last year. They need this kind of player. So when John Morant gets hurt, because that's going to happen, having Ty Jerome in that spot is huge for them. It's huge for them. So, yeah, I think Memphis is going to win a lot of games next year. I think they are. I did like the Cavs calculus and all of that. I think it made sense. I think Lonzo Ball is better on the ball than Ty Jerome is.
He's if he's healthy, he's a better player than Ty Jerome, I think.
Yeah.
Like, because he's big, he can like Ty Jerome is 6'5", but he plays like he's 6'1". Lonzo Ball plays up to 6'6".
That's right. And I don't know that Ty Jerome really is 6'5", but no, Lonzo Ball provides the size and the defense that Ty Jerome and Sam Merrill and Darius Garland and these guys don't. So he just makes sense. He could play with Donovan Mitchell. He could play with Darius Garland. It just makes a little bit more sense. So
and there's the other part about that I think that I like is, number one, he's making. I'd forgotten I still in my head he was like at $18 million. He's on a $10 million contract for next year. That's pretty darn cheap. Same as Okoro.
Yep.
He's got a team option for the following year. So like if he's just hurt next year, you can use that $10 million to trade for something that could help you. Or if you just can't do that, you just let him go and it's no harm, no foul. You got off a longer-term deal that was escalating in Okoro. Like, you did a really good bit of business considering the apron. If Lonzo works out, you probably just find a way to re-sign him on a team-friendly contract when he gets into that, considering his injury history. And you just like find a way to maneuver around it. Like, it's a good piece of business to just go get Lonzo. And I think keeping Merrill, who was like a real weapon and someone Atkinson really likes as a shooter, and he trusts him in the playoffs, I think like I'd rather be in the world where I take the Lonzo risk and keep Merrill than only keep Jerome.
Yeah,
that would be my read. And if you also told me Atkinson got a lot more out of Lonzo than Lonzo has had since like his peak of the Chicago run, I also would believe that, because Atkinson has a track record of getting a lot out of guards and juicing them up in a certain way. It's like it's been a thing for him dating back to Brooklyn. It was a thing for him with Jerome last year.
Another really bad trade for Chicago that nobody understands.
Yeah,
I like.
Can we just shit on the Bulls for a second?
Go ahead.
What are the Bulls doing? Like, I don't understand like what the plan is here at all. Like, I don't see the vision for like anything that is happening here. Like, getting off Levine and all of that was great for them ultimately, but it's like Giddey, Kobe White, Isaac Okoro, Patrick Williams, and older Vucevic. Like, you're hoping like your young guys turn into stuff. Like, I don't see the plan here, and not even getting like a second round pick for a longer term deal than Lonzo was just very bizarre to me. When like you punted on some flexibility with your cap sheet on that trade and didn't get any compensation for it.
Yeah, 2 years in a row they've decided to trade Alex Caruso and Lonzo Ball. Probably 4 months too late. Opportunities to trade both those players for some serious draft capital, perhaps. Certainly with Caruso, maybe perhaps with Lonzo, and instead they added Giddey and Okoro. But they've decided like they prefer the second draft guy as opposed to the draft pick, and that's their strategy, and that's what they're going to be doing. And okay, I mentioned the Magic. Again, we don't have to spend a ton of time on them because we talked a lot about them when they traded for Desmond Bane. But I like getting Tyus Jones for them to come off the bench. That makes a lot of sense for Orlando. I thought that they, after the Bane trade, really needed to add because they moved Cole Anthony in that deal, needed to replace those minutes and needed to get a guy who could just be on the ball. And getting somebody like Tyus Jones, who's more of a true point guard. I was talking about like Malik Monk or those kinds of players for them. Tyus Jones is not the same player as Malik Monk. He's more responsible with the ball, more of a traditional point guard. I think it makes a ton of sense, and I love it for them because he's also a guy who can step up in the rotation and provide all the things and help all of Orlando's best players. So I don't know. He's not going to start, but he could. And I think that's really important to have that over the course of the regular season. And then when you get into different rotations, having Tyus Jones on the floor for stretches with Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner just to take some of the play handling responsibilities off of them. And he's also a guy who can close games in certain matchups too.
I really, really, really love the Tyus Jones fit for them. I love Tyus Jones in these situations where he can like be the authentic Tyus Jones, which is like distribute the ball, play good defense for his size, and like
do
hit
it all
open shots when he needs to. And and it's like he can, like, I think particularly him as like the way to supplement Paolo's playmaking is just a great fit. Like, I imagine how they strike out the combos were really interesting, but it's like I think Franz and Bane together makes a lot of sense to me because they can both kind of combine to be your lead playmaker in those units.
Mm-hmm.
The Magic's offense got in its most trouble in my mind last year when it was just Paolo like having to freelance and create all of his own stuff. That happened obviously with Franz on the court as well. But in the moments where it's like just him, which obviously won't be a ton, but those little like couple minute stretches, put Tyus Jones in there and you're like solving for these problems. And it's just like you're putting training wheels on a guy, and that sounds like mean, but like it's kind of needed. It's overdue, I think, for what they've been doing for a couple of years now.
Any other positives before we get to some of our negatives?
Let me look at the big list of moves. It's been a lot. It really just kind of came. Shams was just firing.
Can I propose a question?
Yeah, please.
As we pivot here, who had a worse opening to free agency? The Lakers, the Celtics, or the Bucks? Quick recap. The Lakers don't get Brook Lopez. The Bucks lose Brook Lopez. And the Celtics also looks like they're going to lose Al Horford. Luke Cornett signs with the Spurs. Nice little add to that for them that we didn't talk about, but yeah, I think that's fine. And they add Luke Garza, who I like, but I don't know that Garza, like going from Horford, Porzingis, Cornett to Keita Garza doesn't sound awesome for Boston.
Nope. I mean, look, we know what we're getting into with Boston next year. It's not going to be I don't think it's going to be particularly good. They just have to live with that. I think it's the Bucks. I think it's the look, they won a title like a year ago. They're fine. I think it's the Bucks because I think the Lakers, like losing DFS is not good. That's a Luka favorite teammate. That's a guy who would help you win next year. The LeBron energy right now is weird. It's not just like what Rich Paul said. It's also like the video of them at a high-end restaurant in New York where he's with Kevin Love, and he's saying like
Miami's own Kevin Love.
my favorite social media poster of all time, Kevin Love. It's the Bucks because like you're paying Kevin Porter Jr., who I'm just like, okay, your big move is like probably re-signing Bobby Portis.
Mm-hmm.
Shams is on TV
Brought back
saying
Torian Prince.
brought back Torian Prince. Shams is on television saying like the Giannis thing hasn't changed. He's still like open-minded to what his future could be. So like theoretically, it seems like the door might still be open where Giannis calls the Bucks ownership and is like, hey, like I kind of actually want to be traded now because you guys couldn't support me. And by the way, Damian Lillard's missing all of next season with a torn Achilles.
Their roster is Giannis at the top, and then it goes to Kuzma, Bobby Portis, Kevin Porter Jr. Yeah. That's rough, dude.
They have to. Should they call Portland and be like, hey, you guys want to take Dame back and we'll give you something and we'll take Drew? You can say you bring Dame back.
just erase everything and Boston walks away with a championship.
Yeah, just mind wipe it from everyone's mind.
It's such a bad. It's been so bad for Milwaukee, and what's tough is that their entire offseason strategy was to bring back everybody, including Brook Lopez,
which
was already not awesome.
It already was not good. It was already like the least compelling case for Giannis possible.
Right. And they lost the most important guy in all of this in Brook Lopez, who rightfully was like, I'm out of here, dude. Like, I'm done. I don't want to be a starting center anymore. I can go get $9 million, live in LA. I'm good with it.
He's really close to Disneyland, which, like, I honestly, like, that's kind of, for the Lopez brothers, that is important. It is a longer flight away from Milwaukee to be near a Disney property. That's real.
Yep. I don't know what Milwaukee does. Does Giannis start at center next year? This is a serious question. Do you just start Giannis at center with Bobby Portis and Kyle Kuzma?
I guess, dude. Like, I think we're on like, is Giannis wanting out by February watch? Like, are we like earmarking the first date that guys can be traded on their new contracts? Like, earmarking that date for like a crazy Giannis trade when they win like 2 out of their first 20 games.
We're looking at a world where Giannis and LeBron could be playing for different teams by the start of next season, not this upcoming season, but the 2026-2027 season.
LeBron should literally finish this year with the Lakers, and then Cavs minimum is the move to finish their career. I think that's the script. I'm not just saying that because like I am partially saying because I want it.
Can we talk about the Lakers part of this now then?
Yeah, because losing DFS and then Ayton as like your center is tough.
So Ayton doesn't clear waivers for another couple of days. But everybody assumes that that's the direction that they went in. And I found the reporting around the Brook Lopez thing really interesting because it seemed like everything was signs pointing to him going to the Lakers, not the Clippers.
Yeah.
And when it got reported that he signed with the Clippers, everybody knew what was up at that point. Capella had signed with Houston. Brook Lopez goes to the Clippers. DeAndre Ayton took a $10 million haircut to get the buyout from Portland. They're going to go get DeAndre Ayton. DeAndre Ayton will be LA's center next year. All of this stuff going on with LeBron James, how he's looking at what's going on with the Lakers and how it pretty much sounds like he's not going to end his career with the Lakers now, and it's just a matter of when. Which
one of the favorite fun facts I learned during this process, Wes, was that this is the longest he's been with one team since his first tenure with the Cavs.
Yeah.
He's been with the Lakers for a minute now.
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost like surprising like it hasn't gotten louder up until this point.
But up until this point, it's always been about LeBron. It's been about LeBron in Los Angeles, and who knows what he knew and what he didn't know at the trade deadline when they made the move to get Luka Doncic. But clearly, you're hearing a lot of stuff about how he wasn't involved in the Luka thing at the deadline, how he wasn't involved in the sale of the Lakers, or was not made aware of the sale of the Lakers. And you just look at all of that stuff. He's clearly signaling, and Rich Paul basically telling ESPN, the Lakers have clearly moved in a direction where they're prioritizing Luka. And they should, by the way. That's the right move. But they're just talking about it openly, and it clearly seems like LeBron is sort of over it. If he's not going to be the center of the Lakers world, then he doesn't sound like he is all that interested in being a part of it anymore. And it doesn't. I don't know that he's going to force a trade necessarily, but he's definitely looking at his options. He opts in. One more year left on his contract here. He'll be a free agent in 2026. So this to me also was a big part of this.
Yeah.
Where Brook Lopez is a far better player than DeAndre Ayton, even at this stage. It's not close. But they went with the younger guy and the guy whose skill set specifically fits with Luka. Tall, run and jump athlete in DeAndre Ayton. That's a Luka guy. Brook Lopez, rim protecting stretch 5, that's a LeBron guy. And rather go with the LeBron guy, they went with the Luka guy.
This is about Luka. This is about Luka now.
It's about Luka. And when the Lakers choosing DeAndre Ayton over Brook Lopez might as well be the Lakers choosing Luka Doncic over LeBron James.
And look, LeBron goes anywhere right now. If he there was a Johan Buha said on a show that I saw a clip of on Reddit that there's been Dallas whisperings. LeBron mentioned New York was mentioned in that Instagram video. The Cavs are always going to have that pull. Anywhere else he goes now, barring it being an expansion team that he is an owner of, which would violate a bunch of league rules. It's not about him anymore. It always to some degree will, because he's the best, in my mind, the best player ever. At worst, the third best player that has ever played in the NBA, and about him getting one more title. But he goes to Cleveland, it's about Evan Mobley and Donovan Mitchell more than it's about him. In LA, it's about Luka. If he goes to New York, that's about Jalen Brunson more than it is about him. Because those are guys that'll be there.
What are the teams that you think make sense for LeBron next?
Warriors, Knicks, Cavs.
I play with Miami in there.
Yeah, okay, put Miami in there. But it's go back to South Beach to finish there because he has respect for the organization and help elevate them again. Cleveland, it's the homecoming, and it would be probably I would take the most direct path to chasing a championship. The Knicks, hey, you get to finish your career playing for the Knicks and have a chance.
They were in the Eastern Conference. Yeah, they were in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah. I would just say if you put him with Mobley and Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland, and he'd to act. The thing is, he needs to take a pay cut if he's doing this. That is. He has to.
100%.
What
would be best for the documentary?
It's him saying I took a pay cut because I was caring about winning in my last year. It's literally
Cleveland.
Yeah.
Storybook ending.
Because there's something a little. The most fitting one is probably him going to play with Steph.
So that's sort of what I was thinking. It would be the perfect way to close the loop on all of it.
It fits the LeBron career arc most cleanly if he went to play with Steph and him and Steph and Jimmy and Draymond finish out together.
I think the Cleveland thing probably makes the most sense because number one, it'll be easier to get through the Eastern Conference, and there would be a nice little bit of, yeah, you almost got there without me, but you couldn't do it without me, and I think LeBron would appreciate that.
Yeah, he would. 100%.
I think he would like that.
One last stick to Dan Gilbert before he goes.
You almost did it without me, but you couldn't do it without me.
Yeah, and Donovan had these recent comments to Taylor Rooks about how they're not the LeBron Kyrie Cavs where there's no pressure. Day one, LeBron's if you give a shit about this, it's about pressure, and we'll be getting a year of stories about Donovan Mitchell and LeBron tension.
Garland, if they do a sign and trade, Garland going to the Lakers makes a lot of sense.
It does. He also honestly, wherever he goes next, he should just be taking the minimum and being absolutely shameless about getting another ring. I firmly believe this. It's just I don't care what
he could do it twice.
Could have done it now. He didn't take a pick with the Lakers, and I don't know. I'm at a point where I don't really You've made so much money. Shouldn't it just be shamelessly chasing the title and still making a lot of money?
Yeah, I never want to tell somebody what to do with the money or whatever.
Agreed.
But if there was ever a guy who didn't need the money and if there was ever a guy whose another championship was worth more than $50 million, it's LeBron.
Yeah,
because every championship now really matters in sort of the history of the game. Nobody will remember if he made $50 million or $5 million.
If he can do the Brady John Elway walk off in the NBA.
Yes.
Pretty fucking good.
Yes. I only have one other team.
Well, I mean, I just saw a clip on. I keep keeping Reddit open as we're doing this. Here are the rumored Al Horford teams. I want to ask you your favorite Al Horford fit.
Okay, Jordan Clarkson just signed with the Knicks. That's okay. I like that for them.
Yeah, I kind of in my head I was thinking LA. I don't know why. I just feel like he would be like a Lakers, like go back to Lakers minimum guy. Couldn't explain why. I wonder what that.
This is a big campaign upgrade. I like it for them.
Yeah, it's a good Clarkson, and like I think really did like show that he could be a part of a winning team in Utah, and like
And he
really
could play
did
with
improve.
Jalen Brunson in that Brunson, not Brunson, that Josh Hart / Deuce McBride spot. He could play in that spot.
Yeah, I agree. So here are the rumored Horford teams from Michael Scotto that have shown him interest. Celtics, Warriors, Knicks, Nuggets, Cavs.
Celtics, Warriors, Knicks, Nuggets, Cavs.
What's your favorite fit?
Nuggets.
Yeah.
Easily.
Yeah.
No question. He could play with Jokic. But
like,
having him backing up Jokic would be that would make things in the Western Conference very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Golden State has the clearest need. Kevon Looney signing with the Pelicans, reuniting Kevon Looney and Jordan Poole, the thing everybody was waiting for.
Well, we're about to get to the Pelicans, buddy.
Are we? Okay.
They're continuing to be the worst organization in the NBA.
Horford in Golden State is kind of cool. Horford in the Lakers was very cool. I just don't know that it moves the needle for those teams where I think about them differently in the Western Conference. But Horford in Denver, that makes things extremely interesting.
Denver, Cleveland, New York are his best chance to win a title next year. Yeah. I think Cleveland is trying to get like a Horford, Larry Nance to get a better non-Tristan Thompson big like on the rosters is my hunch here. Horford, if they got him, would be like a great kind of thing, I think, for them. But the Warriors is the biggest need, clearly. Like that's if he wants to play 25 minutes a game, you should go to Golden State.
Yeah, I'm not sure he does though.
I would.
What's your Pelicans thing?
So Bruce Brown walks for nothing ultimately. People pointed this out that they turned Brandon Ingram, CJ McCollum, and a future second, and that unprotected 2026 first into Derek Queen, Jordan Poole, and a 2031 Raptors second round pick. What are they doing? I don't understand this.
Yeah,
They're acting like a team that is going to tank next year, and they don't have their own pick.
Mm-hmm.
I continually just everything.
Are they acting like a team that's going to tank next year? They just traded for Jordan Poole, who's under contract for another season.
They are not thinking that they are, but if you look at the moves, that's what the moves are going to result in. This is going to be a dog shit basketball team.
It really depends on if Zion is healthy. And
good
in shape.
Okay. Great bet. Great.
To your point, I don't look, they lost the offseason when they traded the 2026 pick unprotected. I kind of said it kind of joking to you late last week that might have been worse than the Luka trade.
I think it might be.
And the more I thought about it, it might be worse. It might legitimately be worse than the Luka trade.
Yeah.
Just because at least not defending the Luka trade, but at least you got a proven NBA player back in Anthony Davis, an all NBA caliber player. We have no idea if Derek Queen's going to be good. We have no idea. You might be the biggest Derek Queen fan. You might love him in the pre-draft process, whatever. He has not played a minute of NBA basketball.
No.
This is one of his fit in New Orleans is weird. I don't know. The whole thing that the Pelicans are doing is confounding.
I think it is utterly bizarre. Like when the Hornets and the Wizards are making more sense than you, something is aimlessly wrong with your franchise. This is really, really bad.
Yeah.
There's like nothing like unless Zion is suddenly like the best player alive, it's done. And that's not going to happen. I'm past Zion. Like you could tell me also they're trading Zion tomorrow, and I'd be like, okay, tracks. Mm-hmm. I don't understand this. I saw that post and I just was again baffled by the Pelicans.
So NBA.com just put a projected Brooklyn Nets depth chart up.
Oh boy.
Yegor Demon, Cam Thomas, Terrence Mann, Michael Porter Jr., Nick Claxton.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Over under 20.5 wins.
Feels like an under to me, Wes.
Feels like a big time under.
Feels like the three worst teams off the top of my head next year: Utah, New Orleans, Brooklyn.
I think you're being a little too hard on New Orleans in terms of like Washington still exists.
Yeah, they got a bunch of old dudes though that are just like there for the culture. Kind of don't hate it. Middleton and McCollum, getting a couple extra wins. Just those guys, maybe if they're healthy.
Can I give you one more big loser that
Please.
none of the national shows are going to be talking about?
Yeah, the
except for
big,
us?
the big national shows. We're the scrappy underdogs. So let's talk some shit. Respectfully.
Tough couple of weeks for the Sacramento Kings.
They're back in purgatory, dude. They're back. They're back in purgatory.
So they lose Jake LaRavia, which set Kings Twitter aflame.
So
I'm like,
by the
guys,
way,
we're talking about Jake LaRavia, who closed the season okay.
We should have mentioned that as a win for the Lakers because he's like had a good finish of the season and like he's on a very like cheap contract for like a team that needed bodies.
I'm just 2 for 7 or whatever, but it was
like 2 for 12 maybe.
2 for 12. Yeah, like about $7. Yeah. They got LaRavia. It sounds like they're going to try to get DeAnthony Melton, and I'm assuming they get DeAndre Ayton, although that's not a done deal, according to the reporting. So, okay, that's fine. Whatever. Yeah, the Kings lose Jake LaRavia. They don't move into the first round of the draft where they were telling everybody, yeah, we're going to get into the first round. We're getting back into the first round. Watch out. They don't. They don't make any major trades. Everybody's like, they're telling everybody, oh, we're getting phone calls about DeMar DeRozan and Malik Monk, and we're open for business on everybody, and Domantas Sabonis is even out, whatever. They haven't done anything. They've done zero to the roster. A roster that clearly doesn't work, clearly does not fit, and they've done nothing. They've done nothing to augment it. They've done nothing to change it. If I'm a Kings fan, I'm livid right now.
I would be apoplectic. This is like you had this little window of hope where you like had that great season. You're lighting the beam. You're pushing the Warriors. You have De'Aaron Fox. You have Sabonis. You're like moving somewhere. You believe in the untapped potential of Keegan Murray. And now it's like, all right, we got Zach LaVine, DeRozan, Keegan Murray with like less shine on him. Do you really love Keon Ellis? We fired Mike Brown for some reason.
I do love Keon Ellis.
I do too. He's really good. He's like a soft spot for me, and I still will I will watch the Bulls next year. Wes, I guarantee you. And you're gonna get like a random text from me like on a Tuesday and be like, Isaac Okoro really grinding. Really gonna hold on to my stock there, even though it's like a penny stock now. But like they're back in purgatory, and like when you're like scooping the Pistons for Schroeder, and like you're trying to get Russ, it just screams utter desperation. We're like, are you trying to trade Sabonis in 3 months because it's that bad?
Yeah, I think we need to start having a real conversation about that in Sacramento.
Would if you here's a hypothetical that I'm just throwing out. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know yet with how you make the money work mainstream, but with the Cavs to add a little bit more playmaking to their team, would it make sense to do something like an Allen Sabonis swap because you have Mobley to cover for Sabonis?
Ooh. That's interesting. I probably wouldn't.
If you got Horford, I would absolutely. I'd think about it.
It feels like if you still have Garland and Mitchell, the only reason that works is because you have Allen and Mobley.
Yeah.
I feel like you can't have another minus defender there unless you swap out Garland for a plus defender also.
Yeah, and it would have to be like Allen, Wade, and like Strus or Lonzo.
That's a lot.
It's a lot. And so it's tough because like I did like Allen. Yeah, it's tough fiscally, but think about it. One other team, Wes, I want to just say I think is kind of a loser here. I get they're in a tough spot. Don't love the Karis LeVert contract for the Pistons. It's a lot of money for Karis LeVert. 2 years, almost $30 million.
$15 million a year?
Yeah.
I don't mind it.
I just think he's pretty inefficient. I don't think he's like a great fit alongside Cade. And yeah, you also have this Malik Beasley situation that is kind of out of your hands. That I think, he's going to replace some of the Beasley minutes, if Beasley ends up not being able to play next year, that's not exactly a 1-to-1 kind of ideal, I think, replacement for what that gave you. I think their complexion's going to feel a little bit different next year. Is my guess.
Yeah, the LeVert 3-point shooting thing is like every other year, up and down.
Isn't he also
type of
blocking
deal.
Ivy because he's a guy like needs the ball in his hands? Isn't he kind of like blocking Ivy from taking on more?
He is.
If you're trying to push Ivy.
He is, but I think Detroit likes that. They just seem to keep wanting to bury Jaden Ivey every chance that they get. Jaden Ivey's sneaky trade candidate. Don't be surprised if he moves this summer. He's in the last year of his rookie contract. They clearly are not that interested in extending him. It would be, I don't know. I shouldn't say that. They could still extend him and just be like, whatever, and keep the asset. But yeah, so I'm okay with the LeVert thing. It wouldn't have been my favorite. It wouldn't have been my number one option. Ty Jerome, to me, made more sense for them.
Agreed.
But maybe they didn't have that option, right? And so there's not a whole lot of players that are necessarily like, I don't know if there's a lot of players lining up to play in Memphis either, but whatever.
But I mean, Jerome and his numbers, I think a better, even if it's 3 years, is just like a better figure to me than LeVert.
Yeah.
Like Jerome's
yeah, we don't know. Yeah, maybe Jerome said no, and then they pivoted to LeVert. So
totally possible.
He
did play for Bickerstaff. He did play for Bickerstaff. It might have just been like, yeah, I don't really want to do that. I think that's possible. That could have played a part in it. I don't know, but it's a guess.
Yeah.
Here's some of the names left, and you tell me if there's anyone that you have a take off before we go. Miles Turner, Ayton, Kuminga, Quentin Grimes, Horford, Chris Paul, who's been linked to the Clippers and the Suns, Beasley, Giddey as an RFA, and Brogdon. Those are like on the top 25 at Yahoo. Those are the names left in the top 25.
Whoever gets Quentin Grimes.
Yabasheli, big omission.
I think Quentin Grimes is going to be one of the steals of the offseason. I think everybody that loves the Nickeil Alexander-Walker contract was kind of sleeping on, or just Nickeil Alexander-Walker as a top free agent, which I still had him as one of my top free agents. Quentin Grimes is not that far behind Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and we talk about them like they're not even in the same class. I think Quentin Grimes is a very good rotation type player, and there's going to be a team that is going to be really happy with him.
Yeah. I think Chris Paul and the Clippers is pretty good.
Yeah, I'm rooting for that. That'd be fun.
I think he feels like a good
James Harden again.
Too.
They were successful.
I know, but it's just like the way it apparently ended. Just very and like it's also just like the way it ended with the Clippers ended with Harden. Also the way it ended with the Suns, and it's just like the proximity to your family ultimately wins out over like uncomfortable conversations. Also, Chris Paul is probably the captain of doesn't give a fuck about the discomfort of those relationships.
No, doesn't care.
One more year.
He's gonna walk in and be like, "What's up? Everything good? Yep, cool."
It's like, James, really liked your work as a runway model. Really liked your work doing the Hulk Hogan entrance at Fanatics Fest, James Harden. Yeah, I think we've gotten a lot of the big names are off the board. Now I just wonder if there's a trade we're not seeing. That and the Turner thing not being done does make me just like squint a little bit.
Mm-hmm. That's a good call out.
So I would have just thought that's like the Pacers we made the finals. You're a longest tenured guy. Are we not going to 2 years for a lot of money? 3 years for a lot of money?
Could be interesting if the Lakers give the hard press on it. We can't assume anything is going to be done until it's done. So,
100%. All right, well, in there. I'm Chris Manning. That's Wes Goldberg. Back at you later this week with more Just Basketball Show. We'll see what happens. We'll see if we get anything more seismic. We'll hop on if something crazy does happen. The NBA doesn't really ever stop, so odds are something's going to happen before the end of the week that we'll need to discuss. We didn't even talk about like Naz Reid getting a shit ton of money. I'm very happy for Naz Reid. Wolves really did a lot of good stuff, actually. We didn't get to. Maybe we'll talk about them later. Again, enjoy the hoops. Enjoy the WNBA. I certainly will in 2028. We'll talk to you soon.